Welcome to the Popish Plot. I'm Nate.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Mike.
Today we're here to talk to you about the World Day of Prayer for Vocations.
Fundamentally, what is the vocation of every baptized person?
To be a missionary disciple.
Jesus
Nope.
God Bible.
Being a missionary disciple is good. Jesus God Bible, always find answers. But what kind of person should be a missionary disciple? Or what should be the end result of being a missionary disciple?
Ooh, I think if we had like our old catechism, we could answer in like question 1 or 2 about, love and serve God in this life and be with him forever in heaven. Or something like that.
That's right. And what do we call the people who live with him forever in heaven?
Oh, to be a saint. I gotcha.
Ah!
Yeah.
Again, we need the practice.
We do. And we need the vocations to help guide us on our way.
A Bible. So, every baptized Christian has a vocation to be a saint. When Paul is writing his letters to the holy ones in this or that city, hey, that's us.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I do not live in Roman cities.
No, but
their churches did have some serious problems that we might be glad that we don't have to associate ourselves with.
And you live in the latter-day analog of those places.
That's right. We have a whole other set of serious problems that we may or may not want to associate ourselves with.
Like, we all love to point out how stupid the Galatians are. Stupid Galatians. But it's not like we don't have our own problems.
That's right. One who worships in a glass church shouldn't throw stones.
So no stone throwing in the Diocese of Orange, where they now have a glass cathedral. But it's a little known fact that the fourth Sunday has, for years, it's so little known, I don't even know the precise year that it started, has been set aside as this World Day of Prayer for Vocations. Because, as you may have noticed, back in the day, when there were movies about priests and things, there'd be like 4 or 5 of them living in community.
Yes.
Now, you're more likely to have like one priest who kind of rotates between 3 rural parishes.
Yeah, you might have situations where you have multiple priests that are each serving multiple parishes, and all of those priests live together in community. But yes, you're right. You don't have a whole lot of unless there are priests who are making a deliberate attempt to remain in community. You don't have a lot of community living for priests.
Well, and even in places where priests might be interested in that, sometimes there are just logistical challenges.
Yes.
If you're the pastor of this little country church and you're the pastor of this other little country church, well, you're 40 minutes from each other.
Yeah.
But also, back in the day, so I'm told, I didn't experience this myself, I went to public schools, the Catholic schools were just full of giant ruler-wielding nuns.
Mm-hmm. I too have heard this rumor.
I heard done tell. Yeah. They would float around, not actually touching the earth, and if you did anything wrong, a yardstick would come out and son of a motherless.
And you'd say that, and then the ruler would come back out and get you again.
Yeah. The Blues Brothers is my favorite movie for a reason. But nowadays, though, it's easy to almost never see a religious.
Well, clearly that's because they have not been to, our parish when it is open. And they send out the clergy mobile and the nun siren, and suddenly it's Christmas. And how do we have 2 extra priests? Aren't you doing your own stuff?
Well,
is over there, I think.
Well, and it does help that we do actually that the 3 of us do actually have multiple friends who are at least working on entering the sisterhood. So,
well, and it's good to know these people, but you know, how easy would it be to just be an average pew potato and never knowingly see a religious sister?
Oh, that'd be really good.
You're not a bad guy. You show up for Sunday, Sunday Mass, whenever back in the day when we used to be allowed to do that. But you just never see a nun. Well, obviously it's very hard to see a nun because they're all in cloisters and whatnot, but you never see a religious sister. It's very hard to see a religious brother.
Oh, yeah.
Like, where are those guys?
Unless you follow some of the ones that are on YouTube.
Sure. Or if you happen to live near one of their abbeys or something.
Yes.
But the only religious brother I personally know is a diocesan priest who, prior to that, spent a dozen years as a Franciscan in New York City.
Mm.
Yes, but for monks, it's easier for them not to go out because
Sure.
there's always at least one of the monks that's also a priest. So,
Yeah.
Like the nuns have the same problems as the parishes. Well,
Yes.
the religious teachers of, well, the priest can visit us when he's free.
I presume that they butter up the retired priests to make sure they get Mass and confession.
Yeah.
With
Probably
confectionery treats and whatnot.
Yes. Oh, to be a Franciscan. Order of Friars Minor. No. Is that the right one?
Yeah.
Yeah, Order of Friars Minor, where they're all priests. At least at a certain level.
I don't think
Some of
St.
them
Francis himself was a priest.
Nope, he was not.
They just
All
liked
right.
the fact that they wear sandals all the time.
Yeah,
Everything.
that and the discalced
The Carmelites.
the discalced Carmelites.
mm-hmm.
You can make your own sandals if you're old school.
Even better.
Wait, you're not barefoot? You're not barefoot at all! Discalced my right foot. Crumble. But the point is, we want more of this.
Anyways, praying for vocations is an important thing. And we should be doing it not just today, but really all the time.
It should be a regular part of our prayer life. Just in our own diocese, we've recently become aware of the fact that in the next 5 to 10 years, a startling number of our priests are going to reach retirement age. And we're retiring more priests every year than we're ordaining. For example, in the year 2019, the Diocese of Lansing ordained exactly 0 priests.
Yeah.
This year in 2020, if all goes well, we should ordain 2, which is good, but we need, we ordained 1 in 2018, 0 in 2019, 2 in 2020. So that's an average of 1 a year, and that's not going to get it done.
No.
Now, some dioceses are in better shape. A lot of dioceses are in worse shape. Some religious orders, like in our diocese, we're extraordinarily blessed. We have the Ann Arbor Dominicans who are bursting with vocations to such an extent that they just built a new convent in Austin, Texas.
Nice.
They're expanding. Well, I don't know why anyone would want to go to Texas, but if you have to be in Texas, Austin's about as good as you can do. So, but there are lots of other orders. Yeah. But there are lots of other orders that are suffering extreme crises of vocations. And part of it is the fault of us laity. We don't make a concerted effort enough to pray for an increase in priests, an increase in deacons, an increase in religious brothers and sisters.
Well, and at the same time, there is also the problem that quite oftentimes people have stepped out of the role of encouraging those who could be good candidates for religious vocations to, rather than pursuing those high and lofty, but not necessarily financially rewarding goals, when they could go off and be an attorney or an accountant or start a Fortune 500.
Because God knows we need more attorneys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's, I was joking, yes, but
I know, we all know.
Just because you ask someone does not mean they're called for that. Like,
sure.
I had a great aunt who was a nun, and she was a school teacher, but she was 4'0" so I never could imagine her whacking people with stuff. And she tried her hardest to get me to be a nun, well, religious sister. She's like, Look at our library, and it's huge. Look at our creepy underground tunnels where we do science experiments, and it's awesome. Look at this amazing statue. Look at our kitchen, which somehow is all the guys who worked there were 20-something-year-olds who looked good. Weird. It was a kind of a hospital situation, so retired nuns would help the sickly. So it was like, and that's where we got the joke, because I told my husband this, and he thought it was funny. I'm a 16-year-old girl, and she's like, "It's okay, you can look at them. You are admiring God's creation."
You're not wrong.
As long as you're not willfully thinking about doing inappropriate things with them, you're probably all right.
Nate, get your mind out of the gutter.
We're surrounded by nuns in books. In science
Well, I was just thinking to myself how thankful I am that God led my wife through her discernment to realize that she was called to the vocation of marriage.
And that's the other piece of the puzzle. We also need people to recognize that marriage and motherhood and fatherhood are vocations also.
Yes.
And we need to encourage young people to pursue that vocation also. Now, again, Jess, you're a great wife, you're a great mother, but of all the people I know, I think you would probably do pretty well as a cloistered nun. Never having to go outside, reading all day.
Their library was bigger than our public library in town.
Yeah, but could you see me as a monk?
Only the brewing kind.
What you should do is just find monks who brew and sort of attach yourself as a lay brother to their community. Really, you're just in it for the beer.
I've looked into it. It requires me to move.
Sure. Plus, again, at this point in time, you've been called to the vocation of husband and father.
Correct.
Once your girls are grown, then the two of you could do as many of the saints have done. Consider discerning, each of you called to religious life, where Jess will read all day and Nate will brew beer. And presumably at some point in time, there'll be some praying.
I assume that probably would actually not be useful, as then we would just be doing stuff that we like because we like it, and not for any higher religious purpose.
Yeah.
Like we pray about it, like, no, that's the absolute worst idea. What did you think?
You're just doing what you wanted to do. That's why we need discernment.
Yes. So number 1, pray for vocation. On this day especially, but really try and make an intentional effort to pray for vocations as a regular part of your prayer life.
Mm-hmm.
Step 2, pray for discernment, not just for yourself, but for those who are already feeling the call, that they might be able to accurately and prayerfully determine what God's will for their life is.
Mm-hmm. And
third one that I just can't put together into words.
Well, I suppose for our area, we should get more people to move to the 2 towns that are constantly fighting each other for how many priestly vocations they have.
Yes.
Like, if we just increase the number of people living there, then theoretically it should increase the vocations.
That is the good kind of competition. But this time in particular should focus all of our attention on the need for vocations, because right now, most of us are cut off from the Eucharist, and it stinks. Most of us are cut off from the sacrament of confession, and it stinks. So in the future, if we have, let's just say the same number of lay faithful that we have today and half the priests,
there's going to be a lot more people who are having a hard time getting to the sacrament.
So this time of separation from the sacraments should make us realize how important they are and do everything we can to ensure their future and just purely selfishly, our own future access to those. So, World Day of Prayer for Vocations. On this day, as a whole world, let's pray for vocations.
Go down below, hit the subscribe button and the little bell next to it so you'll get notified of our next episode coming out tomorrow. Make sure you hit the like button just because. Comment down below on any stories you have about the vocation. Maybe at one point in time you were discerning one. Maybe you know somebody who did.
This one goes out specifically to one viewer, Denny C. If you would tell us the great story of what happened when you were a kid and the nun asked if anyone had any vocations in their family. It's a great story. Everyone will love it.
I'm sure it is.
Yes. And until next time, remember to live your faith.
Love your faith.
Share that love.